Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today, finally, we're going to be disclosing top 5 champions of 2019 in the order I personally believe that they rank. As always, a disclaimer that this is my personal opinion. I might judge things differently from different perspectives than other people do. I might have had different experience with the champion, but at the same time I will try my best to provide my reasoning for placing these champions the way I do. So 2019 overall has been extremely good year for champions. Definitely top 15 champions are outstanding, even like top 20 champions. Definitely how they're used in game. Animation department has been absolutely off the charts. And altogether, I think we have had one of the better years of champion releases ever. Which kind of makes sense because the game's constantly progressing, and so are the champions and the capabilities of the development team. They have dropped the ball here and there. Looking at you, Ebony, potentially at Silver Surfer as well, and a few others. Definitely Diablo is poorly designed in my opinion, but there are so many wins this year, then I suppose we should give them some sort of a slack. Either way, let's kick off with spot number 5, and spot number 5 I'm gonna be putting on Dr. Doom, because Dr. Doom has just continuously been proving himself more and more in more different kind of endgame situations and scenarios. And yes, I do understand that some people will disagree with me placing Dr. Doom that high. However, I think he opens quite a new alley of playstyle and utility, and that is something to be considerate for. And he is extremely useful when it comes to his damage output. His damage output actually is quite insane, delivered in bursts of his level 2, depending how you play. He can go from a medium kind of damage dealing champion that doesn't have anything too special, or if you are able to cycle to your level 3s, drop a big level 2, then you can close out fights extremely quickly, even in 6.3 basically, which is like your top endgame content. If you do like a level 3 and a level 2, or 2 level 3s, level 2, then basically everything's dead at that point. So his damage output definitely is up there. It might not deliver itself like most of the champions with extremely huge numbers. Even the numbers are definitely respectable as well. But altogether, it kind of adds up from your playstyle, because you essentially, to a degree, lock opponent into your game, into your style, which is the reason why I'm rating this guy so high. Because you not only stun him after level 3, therefore you have guaranteed opening, then you steal his power, then you give him some power back, and then you steal some more, and then you drop a level 2. And basically it's kind of like a solo game, whereas when you play most of the characters in the game, you have to constantly keep baiting out opponents' special attacks. You have to see what they're gonna do, how they're gonna react, and Doom doesn't. And that's so fantastic with him. Now, obviously, there is that phase when you kind of have to find an opening, block bait something if you want to go for the second level 3. But at the same time, they have provided such a useful toolkit for Dr. Doom with his bulkiness. He has big crit resistance, insane armor, and he feels tanky, and he is tanky even in endgame content. So when you do make a mistake, his natural kind of like huge armor combined with his aura can provide so much protection. There are times when you are being clever about how you're using Dr. Doom's aura. I run in at opponents' special attacks on purpose, knowing they're not gonna knock me down, they're not gonna do much damage, because many opponents' heavy attacks or special attacks have only like 1 or 2 hits, and that last hit basically deals hardly any damage to you, and it doesn't knock you down on your feet, and you are free to kind of carry on with your combo. So there's a lot to be kind of explored, and this character kind of leaves you with a feeling that he can do so much, and you just kind of need to go out and look there, and there are several different rotations, variations. And one thing's for sure, he's cool. His animations are cool, he's fun to play, especially if matchup has any buffs involved with it, he's gonna dominate with that Mystic Dispersion. And yeah, the fact itself that he just finds more and more kind of ways to be useful. Initially I thought he's going to be quite quirky, maybe impractical, maybe it's not going to go all that well together. But when you kind of combine his level 3 capability of from the point where you drop a level 3, then you can immediately go to level 1 while opponent is stunned, basically. Then that level 1 will provide you enough power for level 2, and then you end up launching at least kind of 3 special attacks in a row without opponent actually being able to do anything whatsoever. And these special attacks are also unblockable, so you don't have to bother finding openings. And there are just so many kind of crazy and interactive things. And I think as more and more people get Dr. Doom, we're gonna get some more and more crazy videos with Dr. Doom, with him doing the things that people didn't think of before. And I absolutely love the design. I think they definitely delivered. There are small few bits. Obviously, I'd like the aura to last like a second longer or 2 seconds longer, so it's easier to kind of maintain it. And a few other things, but all in all, I am absolutely in love with the character. Maybe I'm overrating him, maybe I'm overhyping him, but the fact itself that I did a Labyrinth of Legends fight where opponent didn't launch a single special attack and I was just constantly on offense and constantly spamming my special attacks, does tell me something about how useful potentially this guy can be. Obviously, his awakened ability, stealing power gain buffs, absolutely destroying Hyperion, and many things like that are just like added bonuses. And currently, he's one of my favorite champions to play, even in matchups where it might not be the best idea. His heavy attack and animation is epic, and he is an absolute win in design department when it comes to his looks, to his animations, to his abilities. I do really think he just comes together extremely well, and I absolutely love using this guy. And most importantly, this is one of those champions that also kind of make me want to go out there in different quests and find new use for him, which is partially one of the reasons why I haven't done like a full Dr. Doom review, because every time I kind of sit down and play about the character in different matchups, I kind of find different things and I can't even decide what to showcase, and then I'm starting to think probably there's something else I should include, and then something completely different appears and I get sidelined. And this is one of the champions that definitely gets me excited every time I discuss him, every time I use him, every time I find something new about him. And yeah, therefore I think deservedly he is in spot number 5, and he is better than most people claim. And I might even be willing to state a claim that he possibly could be the best Mystic champion in the game currently. But now that statement has been put out there, I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to try and think it through, but I definitely think he's really close to the top and potentially could edge out other Mystic elite champions. But that being said, time to move on. We're not going to move on too far though from the theme. It's all going to stay in the family, and by family I mean the first family. And spot number 4 I'm currently going to give to the Thing. And the Thing is a champion that's not my personal cup of tea, but don't get me wrong, I don't appreciate what he does. First of all, he's a champion by himself that has extremely fairly unique toolkit, and it's made to shine even brighter due to the recent kind of nodes that we see all in all pretty much everywhere. EMP modification has been fairly dominant, and let's look everywhere in the game. There aren't really all that many shock immune champions. Aside from previously mentioned Dr. Doom, hardly any of the top champions are immune to the shock. Now, there are some champions that are immune to the debuffs or can deal with damage or time debuffs, like Aegon and Ghost. Or Corvus doesn't take damage from shock so long as he has Glade Charge. But when you talk about pure shock immunity and stuff like EMP modification, that has been present everywhere in 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. It's going all over the place in monthly event quests where you need pure 100% immune to shock because of the passive nature of those EMP modification debuffs. Then he's one of the very few answers in the game. Additionally, another node that is problem, an eyesore everywhere, is can't stop, won't stop. And there are so few champions that can reliably go unstoppable with their base kit abilities. And Thing is one of them. He's probably the dominant champion that can do that, and can do that throughout the fight as often as needed. Yes, you're gonna have to take some chip damage, but if he's awakened, you can trigger your protection, then get tagged once, and then everything's gonna be fine because you hardly can take any damage in the fight either way. And that is such a valuable ability to have. It's one of the things I think I'm lacking in my roster. So one of the can't stop, won't stop, always somehow one way or another presents a problem for me, and I have to find my workarounds. So that is also a reason why I'm currently sitting and thinking either I'm gonna rank to an undupe thing or max out my 5-star. I'm not entirely sure. It would be ideal to dupe this guy though. But I think that is one of the holes in my roster currently, that unstoppable buff on command, because there are very, very few champions in the game who can do that, and he's one of them. And all of that is kind of wrapped in a good package, because obviously him being able to go unblockable, him being able to deal with unstoppable buffs, and so on and so forth, and you can use his charges basically as an extra protection for your mess ups, and you can get punished a lot less. And that's all not even mentioning his kind of like cheese tactics, the champion and Hellas or Heimdalls or full Mr. Fantastic team. And obviously he has a vital role in Fantastic Four synergy as well. So there is just so much to the guy, and he constantly keeps popping up towards the endgame content as one of possible solutions for that problem, this problem. And all in all, like, I'll again be perfectly honest, he's not exactly my cup of tea. I don't find him the most enjoyable champion to play with, or so on and so forth, but I cannot deny his presence all around the endgame. Cannot deny the fun bit, the cheese bit, when you actually take him, trigger champion synergy, and do insane amounts of damage. That is amazing. I have had fair share of fun with that myself though. Maybe not in endgame content, but just kind of like goofing off. But that has been perfectly viable for a lot of variant content and for some of the Act 6 paths, so on and so forth. And there we go. I think Thing is 4th best champion released this year, with a mix of his kind of completely sensible practicalities, immunities, abilities to deal with these debuffs, with these buffs, unstoppable buffs, and his protection, which is extremely valuable. You can also tank level 3s with it. And one of the best things about the character I haven't even mentioned, that pretty much everything that he does is more or less like a passive thing, so he can easily play around like fisticuffs. His abilities can't be nullified, therefore preferring masochism, things like just a lot this guy can do. And that's the sensible bit. And then there is completely kind of let your hair down, get champion on your team, trigger that synergy. My only kind of wish is that the synergy that triggers his uber damage mode would be somebody better than a champion, because I really don't like that guy. I think it's kind of a bit of a waste. If he had that synergy with one of the Fantastic Four members or somebody else that's actually decent, I'd probably have him ranked up already. But I'm always very kind of hesitant in bringing up or bringing on my team a champion that I particularly have absolutely no use for outside of being a synergy piece. And I really don't like doing it. It's one of the reasons why I like to play Ghost, for instance, either only with Wasp or without any synergies whatsoever. I love Wasp, but most of the time I end up playing Ghost with no synergies, for instance. And bringing in a champion that's realistically useless in pretty much all of the endgame stuff kind of sucks. That puts me off him quite a bit, to be honest. But everything all good and bad and everything put together, this guy definitely is one of the biggest success stories of 2019. He's showing his value in matchup after matchup. He's great for no retreat champion boss. He can cheese that stuff off. He's great for X, Y, Z, can't stop, won't stop. He's great for some insane damage. He's great for potion farming and having lots of fun. And he's a member of Fantastic Four. And he's one of the few shock immune champions in the game. And he can put some insane damage numbers up. So yeah, there we go. Thing is number 4. Probably we can see him ranked up at some point in the near future, either the 6-star or either the 5-star. Because I'll admit, I have no shame in admitting, I was kind of really hesitant approaching this character. He has never kind of like absolutely wowed me. But throughout time after time, basically, new piece of content coming out after new piece of content, and this guy just seems to be pretty much everywhere. So love him or don't, you can't deny that he's useful and he is helpful for pretty much every endgame player. So Thing goes in spot number 4, and spot number 3 is gonna be a bit I suppose, controversial, because people have really mixed feelings about this guy. And it's Namor. Now, why Namor is so high? The Captain Marvel movie is better, or Thing is better, or somebody else is better, or whatever. And for many aspects, I agree. But here is the thing that people need to understand. If you can make more arguments about one champion being better, then you can make arguments about Namor, for instance. That doesn't mean that these arguments carry the same weight. And what I mean by that is you can list many pluses for, let's say, Captain Marvel movie. She has poison immunity, which Namor doesn't. She has access to armor break, which Namor doesn't. Binary can get rid of all debuffs, and many things like that. And then those are the things that are kind of neat, nice to have, are good as a package deal, and basically also can be done by many other champions in the game. The stuff that Namor does is unique. I don't need 50 arguments why he should be the third best champion this year. I just really need the one. Because that signature ability is something completely new and fresh in the game. And that signature ability is something that's so ironclad and tight that it will be useful in content piece after content piece after content piece. And there is nothing that comes really that close. Now, when you do examine them closer, for instance, comparing with Omega Red and his tentacle hits, then you can notice actually a lot of similarities. In Omega Red, that is one of the reasons why Omega Red is one of the kings of the game currently, because he can actually cover a lot of stuff Namor can't. But Namor's ability, even though he definitely lacks all across the board where Omega can excel or can be useful, that signature ability in itself makes Namor basically a one-trick pony, but he's best at what he can do. You can see some 3-star Namor takedowns of, I don't know, 40k Mephisto or something like that. There are insane amount of things that this guy can do and will be able to do for as long as Kabam is going to be creative in giving you damage, passive, fun, and interactive damage. For as long as Kabam, let's face it, ever are going to be trying to kill your champions for entering in the fight, Namor is going to be there to stand up against it. Yes, everything else about the character I don't even particularly like and enjoy. I'm not a fan on how 80% of his damage pretty much is hidden up at level 3. I'm not a fan, obviously, of lack of immunity. There aren't any other utilities really outside of like some random bleed debuff, stuff like that. There are obviously some other cool things about him, like that enrage phase when you can spam special after special attack. That's quite cool, and that makes it feel less of a kind of drag by having that level 3 lockup. But most of the time you don't even really kind of need it. And also most of the time in current game it's kind of an overkill if you go for 2 Furies then a level 2. It's just too much, everything's dead along the way. So many people also can't really appreciate the total damage. But the damage isn't the point. There are many champions who access more damage easier. But it's there. It's still kind of like a nice thing to have. Also, the way his signature ability interacts with suicides is quite special though. That can make up for quite a bit of chip damage. And that is very practical kind of day-to-day thing. But let's face it, Namor is not the champion that's going to be on your main questing team day-to-day. Namor is not a champion that you're going to be, oh, that's my favorite champion to play with. No, nobody likes to watch those level 3 animations or even build up the power to level 3 in order to do some significant damage. He's not somebody you're going to be looking with glass eye and saying, like, this is the most enjoyable time in MCOC. No, he's the guy that's going to present you with the hope of getting through content you otherwise wouldn't or couldn't. And he does it already, and he will keep doing it. And I think that is the one most single important thing that makes this guy great, that will make sure that this guy is great no matter what kind of content gets released in future. That signature ability is something special, something inarguable. I don't like the rest of the character, we can say. I'm not that I particularly hate it, but I'm definitely not a fan at all of the whole enrage mechanic of how he builds power, whatever he does. I think that character design bit could be kind of like C-. The way I look at Namor to a degree is pretty much the way I look at Gladiator Hulk, just like on steroids. I don't like anything about Gladiator Hulk outside of face me ability, because I think face me ability is extremely important, extremely vital, and is the one reason why Gladiator Hulk is actually a viable champion for some stuff in endgame. Face me mechanic is fantastic, all the wrapping around it kind of stinks. Namor, his signature ability is fantastic, amazing, as one trick pony is incredible. Everything around it is kind of meh. Take it or leave it. I'm not a fan. I'd rather put that signature ability in some other champion and how much more fun. But we have what we have to deal with what we have. And Namor it is. And that signature ability can be added to any champion. Give that signature ability to Iron Patriot. I'm going to say Iron Patriot is the third best champion released this year. That is how important that signature ability, in my opinion, is. To the point that pretty much nothing else matters. So long as there is that signature ability, it will be useful. That champion will have its moments to shine, and people will find it valuable. I know I definitely do, and therefore he's in spot number 3. Don't even like the guy. I don't like any champion. Yeah, not a fan. But that signature ability is something quality, and that signature ability is something that will help you save a lot of potions, a lot of units, will provide an easy or cheat answer to many nodes or node combinations where you're not meant to be getting through. That pretty much sums it up, and that leaves us with 2 champions. And I know that everybody pretty much is voting these 2 champions in first and second spot. And I obviously had quite a bit of a time thinking over which one deserves a first spot and which one deserves a second spot. So, for the spot number 1, I'm actually going to do it in kind of reverse order. Yeah, I'm going to skip the 2, because as soon as I'm going to start talking about the 2, you guys are going to know which one is the one that I think is the best champion either way. But it's Nick Fury and Warlock, right? 2 absolutely fantastic champions, incredibly fun, incredibly useful, incredibly present problem solvers for everywhere in endgame. And for me personally, Nick Fury is the best champion of 2019. And first of all, let's just go over why he's fantastic, and then I'm going to discuss exactly why I picked him over Warlock, and then finally we're actually going to talk about Warlock. So let's talk Nick Fury, right? So he actually is not really the most complicated kind of character. Basically, his signature ability gives him a second life, which also gives him a Fury buff, which kind of unlocks a lot of power in him, and he gets a lot more damage. So the real Nick Fury is the one that you kind of have access to only after you die, and you only have access basically to 30% of that health, because the rest of it ticks away. So basically, you can kind of compare him to an Iron Man to a degree, who once you KO'd, healed back to 30%, and then the good stuff starts. But what he can do, basically everything he does, places bleeds on opponent. Light hits, bleeds, mediums, bleeds, heavy bleeds, special 2 bleeds, so on and so forth. Get auto block, bleed, and so he plays a lot of bleed debuffs. And yeah, that's one of his. And once you get to 8 bleeds, you get this passive bleed, and then if you have any tactical charge, you get to extend it. And based on tactical charge, he gains more and more abilities. So let's just quickly check out 5 tactical charges. Your attacks can't miss or be evaded, which is a really vital point, because 5 is a relatively easy number to get to. Basically, 2 level 1s, even when he's alive kind of thing. Or get hit with a combo, drop a level 1, it can be evaded, and then you can maintain it above 5 for sure. And there are more and more problem situations where this miss mechanic is coming in the game, like tunnel vision, which is Nick Fury's pretty much bread and butter as well at this point. And then there are the Guillotine 2099 phase, and then there's Ebony Maw, and then there's like character after character basically recently coming out, and it's one of the it's kind of like the new version of auto block, and auto block was basically the new version of evade. So it's one of those annoying defensive mechanics that are killing you effectively. And yeah, so Nick Fury can completely ignore all of that stuff, and he also ignores evasion, and also he kind of ignores auto block, because when you get auto blocked, you just place a bleed on opponent, and if you're in a real Nick Fury phase, even if opponents have parry active, he is stun immune. So he can work around all three of these main problem areas, aids, auto blocks, and phasing or missing, whichever. Then you can purify the debuffs if you're 10 plus, cool, and you can purify basically all of the debuffs every time you knock down an opponent. That debuff purification is useful, but it's not the most kind of practical or effective, and there are champions who do it better. But at 15 plus, basically you become unblockable and all your hits become unblockable, and you can essentially spend entire fight being completely unblockable, which is insanely useful. You don't have to worry about intercepting or finding openings. Every hit you throw is an opening, basically, so there's that. And all of these things put together, with the Fury, with the bleeds, with the massive damage output, with the stuns, with the disorient, and so on and so forth, basically can make him one of the highest DPS champions in game. So he does insane damage. He probably does pretty much the biggest bleeds. I think only champion that can potentially do bigger bleeds is Domino, but that's RNG based, and that's not like kind of throughout the fight. But this guy can make sure opponents have insane bleeds placed on them throughout the entire fight, no problem. And that is amazing, and that is showing to be surprisingly useful in more and more content. And his damage output with that Fury active is quite great, even if opponents are bleeding me, for instance. And the fact that that inner bleed is passive lets you get through the life cycle node. There's just so many kind of like little things that add up and make Nick Fury great. Second life also makes him really good for instance, AQ, because you can just take him, play him normally, let yourself be chipped down, then let him heal up, and just finish off the map like that, and you have like extended health pool, which is just simple and practical, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things that are really, really great about him, but I'll be 100% honest. If I would just be looking at what Nick Fury can do in a fight and comparing it to a Warlock, I'd put Warlock above. But since I'm looking who's the best champion overall in the game, and I'm giving it away to Nick Fury, it's also part of the reason of what kind of impact Nick Fury has to your account. And that impact is also delivered by his synergies. Now, put away the fact that whenever you have him on your team, basically all your champions, all your hero champions are gonna either have a 10 or 20% attack boost, which is insanely useful. Which is a good synergy in itself. But that's not even the end of it. His Restoration Kit synergy with Deadpool X-Force or Goldpool or whoever basically makes sure that vast majority of the champions who aren't particularly suicide friendly can be, to a degree, and to a degree kind of like length of the fights. Or they can make sure that the champions who do not have access to regeneration do. And the best bit is that that regeneration is activated automatically at the beginning of every fight, and that can be so clutch, it's so useful, it's so sustainable. This synergy in itself is pretty much the reason why I have managed to complete several Labyrinth of Legends path without using a single item, because that heal can add in for so much. Also, that heal obviously gets triggered by removing the bleed debuff, so it means instead of losing health at the beginning of the fight when you have the double suicide debuffs on, you're gaining health instead, and with that you're actually recovering some of the recall damage. And that pretty much means that with this synergy setup, you can bring in any champion with suicides, more or less. Probably there are some exceptions, so still, for instance, like Carnage is not going to work too well, but vast majority of the champions automatically become suicide friendly. As a guy who likes to run suicides, this was huge. This was like one of the biggest things that happened to me and my accounts in 2019. I was like, finally I can play with pretty much anybody so long as I have these two guys on my team, and suicides are fine, suicides are go, it's cool. So I have a tag bonus, I have this heal, which completely changed how champions are played on my account. And as I said in my opening when I pulled the 6 Nick Furies, my biggest problem before was that I didn't have enough Nick Furies, because that's how useful it is. I rely on his synergies in AW, I would like to do it in AQ, and top it all off, heck, I might max out my 4-star for questing purposes as well, I don't know. But that is really, really vital and useful. And then added on top of it, there is this Await synergy, which is also in itself one of the best synergies of the year. Basically, you have 3 charges every time you would get hit, you wait instead. Only time it doesn't trigger, and it's worth noting, is when you are already mid-dex motion. So if you get caught in a dashback or you try to dex an opponent's special attack but misjudge it, it's not going to save you. But it will save you, for instance, when you miss an intercept, or when you don't miss a parry, or when you dash in an opponent on special attack or something. So it will provide you with a huge window of safety. It also opens completely different playstyles for many champions like Hela, Human Torch, so on and so forth, because you can just take your chance. You can just start charging your heavy attacks. You can do whatever you want, and you're gonna have guaranteed 100% chance to walk away from that experiment safe. And I have already made a couple of videos about this being my favorite synergy team, or how this synergy is useful, or how it impacts the game and the champions. And all of that combined with the fact that Nick Fury is an amazing champion in itself, definitely, for me personally, puts him in spot number 1. He also has a bunch of other synergies that can be situationally useful. He makes Captain Marvel movie into an amazing champion, which also fits in extremely well in that synergy core. And there's just so much depth to the guy, especially the more you kind of look, the more situations you approach. I have pretty much changed the way I play because of this guy. And that's why he out-edges Warlock. And we're going to start talking about Warlock now. Warlock is extremely fun champion. He provides answers to many different problem fights. And he definitely has had an impact on my account, but he doesn't extend that impact any further. To me, he's just another champion, just another tool that I have that answers a lot of problems. Nick Fury has changed my whole kind of like, not playstyle, but team building, the team, the rank up choices, everything. Warlock is very solid singular unit, and if I would have to just take a look at who's more useful in the fight, in a typical kind of average fight in there while you're fighting, he would be the best, and let me explain why. So Warlock is second. Warlock is second best champion of the year, take that away. Number 2. Why he's number 2? And arguably he out edges the champion that's number 1 when it comes to actual being practicality. So that means there's something insane about this guy, and there is. First of all, not just his looks. He looks absolutely insanely cool, quirky. Everybody loves him. He's kind of mix of creepy and cool and quirky, and it just works. It works. His animations are great. His look is great. Detaches his head and hits opponents with it, or takes his face off and blocks hits with it. And man, is just cool. It's yeah, probably the best animated character for me this year. But let's go over. So he's a robot, so he's bleed and poison immune, so basic immunities are there. That's already fantastic. And he's also cold snap and frostbite immune, so he's immune to Iceman and some stuff like that. You kind of really wish there was an incinerate immunity, that he would be completely insane. But okay, so he's triple immune to a degree, even though I don't particularly like calling cold snap immunity real immunity, because there are hardly any champions who utilize it, and very few nodes where it is useful. Either way, technically triple immune. And the entire thing that makes Warlock so great is those infections and the fact they are passive. They also are immune to ability accuracy reduction, and that means that in any case, no matter what, they will trigger. And basically when an opponent's infected, they are heal blocked. If they try to heal, they start losing power. They lose their offensive ability accuracy. And it's a very simple thing, but it works. Because up until now, we only have had one champion in game who had like passive heal block, if I'm not mistaken. And that was Mysterio. But as I described when I was talking about Mysterio, you kind of got punished, and a lot of your utility got switched off when you were using that heal block or relying on it, or you couldn't maintain it if you wanted to get a higher damage output or something like that. Well, then Warlock is a case where this heal block is passive, it's insanely valuable, it's insanely useful. In the vast majority of the matchups, you pretty much don't have to do anything special. You just play and it's there and it's going to be present throughout the entire fight, and it's great. It works insanely well. Plus, against these region champions, it also provides you with a very useful form of power control that's extremely potent, and you can seemingly just bash at opponent endlessly, thus having loads of fun, at the same time dealing with a lot of problem fights. And on paper, all of these Warlock's abilities don't even seem that impressive. What makes it impressive though is just how many problem fights he answers. When you have the biggest nightmare fights of 2019 or biggest problem fights in general, he just seems to have an answer for all of them, whether it's been Mr. Mr. Sinister, Sabretooth, whether it's Havoc, because he happens to have an armor buff as well, because why the hell not? Whether it's this or that, or whether it's Mr. Sinister in 6.22, he has a synergy, therefore he doesn't require you to have Heimdall, therefore he's pretty much the best answer for it. And there's just thing after thing, matchup after matchup, where he gets the job done. He might not be the perfect answer for everything, but he kind of always seems to throw his hat in there, in the contention of being like one of the better answers for stuff. There are just many small kind of coincidental things that all come together and create this wonderful, ugly looking, mechanical creep doll. And it works, man. It works so very, very well. You kind of are a bit lost for words because you're befuddled how much kind of comes out of a very simple passive heal block, access to armor break, slight amounts of power control, bleed on heavy attack and stuff like that. And none of these things are insane or mind-blowing, but combined in this package of the immunities, access to armor buff, some power control, armor break, passive heal block, power drain, some passive degen, and that's it. That's all there is to the guy. It's a very simple character in his essence. It doesn't require any specific playstyle. Tank him, parry, hit opponent, be aggressive, drop your level 2s, level 1s if you need power drain, level 3s sometimes if you need to heal, reduce opponent's ability accuracy, armor break them, heal block them, and that's it. Very simple, very effective, insanely useful champion, answering many of the big problem questions in 2019, and I think you can kind of describe this as a lucky accident or happy coincidence or something that he is performing as well as he is, because he, with all of those little bits of utility, turns out to be an insane utility powerhouse. And as I said before, if it would come down to how useful each champion was fight after fight after fight, he would be the best thing that Kebab has created in 2019. Nick Fury just out-edged him because of the overall impact on the roster and because of the synergy partners with Quake and stuff, and it just creates a huge impact. Warlock can create a huge impact on the count by himself as well, but it doesn't affect as much. Now, when speaking with synergies, he does have some really cool synergies, especially now that Guillotine 2099 is a thing as well. And under certain circumstances, basically, those synergies make this guy go into overdrive. Unfortunately, the most useful synergy this guy has, or arguably the most useful synergy, basically the one that gives him most potency, is with Cable, and Cable is absolute donkey doo-doo. And once again, unless I'm going to be making a video showcase to try and show something, Cable is never a champion I'd willingly add to my team. But he still has great synergies with Vision, which basically gets you access to Fury buffs, and that's the reason why I can deal with Mr. Sinister buff, Boston 6.22, and he has great synergy with Guillotine 2099 as well. Where is she? There we go. Guillotine 2099 has that another robot synergy, basically where you get extra power gain every 12 seconds now, I believe. So for certain conditions, kind of like biohazard and stuff like that, this guy can be insane because you get extra power, you get fury, therefore you get damage increase, and you just spam your level 2s, and it's happy days. It's happy days indeed. And yeah, so that has been my top champion list. I'll quickly recap them. Spot number 5, Dr. Doom. Spot number 4 is The Thing. Spot number 3, Namor. The Laymore. Whatever. Spot number 2, Warlock. Spot number 1, Nick Fury himself. And again, I love Nick Fury. He's an insane champion. Warlock would have stolen from him if not for his Synergies ban, and how big of an impact they make on person's account. So that has been my list. What is your list? Let me know what you agree with, what you do not agree with. I can quickly read out all of the lists, starting from 1st to 25th, and let's go to go. So number 1, Nick Fury. Number 2, Warlock. Number 3, Namor. 4, Thing. Number 5, Dr. Doom. 6, Captain Marvel movie. 7, Clairvoyant. 8, Havoc. 9, Sunspot. 10, Gilly 99. 11, Torch. 12, Stealth Suit Spider-Man. 13, Mr. Fantastic. 14, Mysterio. 15, Obsidian. 16, Vision Arcus. 17, Ronan. 18, Invisible Woman. 19, Man-Thing. 20, Lemon Surfer. 21, Elsa Bloodstone. 22, Mr. Sinister. 23, Annihilus. 24, Diablo. 25, Ebony Maw. So that's the final list, as you will. And yeah, that will do for this video. Let me know what you think about my list. What would you change? Why do you think I am misplacing some of the champions? Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.